and welcome to another video from Colour with Claire. So I recently put a picture on my social media accounts of a work in progress that I'm doing from the Jasmine Beckett Griffith colouring book, and it's this one here. It's Sonora, who is the Egyptian princess, and I had so many comments on, all over the shop, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere I put it, asking if I could do a video tutorial of how I created the shiny black hair effect. So that's what I'm going to be showing you today. So as you can see, it's still a work in progress. I've got to finish it off yet, but I'm getting there. I've done most of it, I think. I've got to tackle this cat, which I'm a bit daunted by, but we'll see how we go anyway. Now then, so if you want to learn how to create this black shiny hair, you will need just 2 pencils. Now, I work with Prismacolor mostly, as you'll know, and the 2 pencils I'm using is obviously black and also periwinkle. So PC 935 and PC 1025, and they're the only 2 colours you'll need. Now, if you wanted to create black hair just using the black pencil, you could do that, but I find adding the very cool periwinkle blue really sort of gives the shine a depth to it and makes it look 3D. So that is what we're aiming to do. I've printed out the illustration here so that you'll be able to see it properly, and we'll do it together. So I'll zoom in. Straighten up, there we go. So what we want to do first is make sure that all the darkest parts of the hair which would naturally be in shadow are of course with the black pencil. So I actually started off underneath her chin here and round her neck, and using the sharp black pencil just outlined the chin first of all so that we don't go over the line. Just make your way around these earrings. And just feather it downwards. So we've got a nice sharp line for her jaw there, and we're feathering down toward the centre of this section of hair under here. So we want that to be nice and dark, but we can come back in later and darken it even more if we need to. Then we start at the bottom and do exactly the same thing but coming upwards. So I'm going to outline this jagged edge here because these bottom sections of her hair I've actually coloured in gold. And again, sort of feathering upwards, darker at the bottom and sort of lighter toward the middle so that you can blend in that periwinkle. Now you'll notice if you look back at the work in progress that I'm doing, you can't really see an awful lot of the periwinkle. I don't want it to be a blue and black hair. That's not what it's meant to be. It's supposed to be shining onto pure black hair. So I don't want to see a lot of periwinkle. It's just a touch of it that gives that effect that we need. We also want to leave a definite area of white in the centre of everything we do for that pure highlight. So make sure that you're sort of gauging how far to go with your black, depending on the size of the section. So coming in with the periwinkle now, I'm starting in the middle of the black, so I'm not starting right at the edge, I'm starting in the middle, and I'm doing very light, very short strokes. So as I've said, we don't want to see like a big block of this periwinkle. It's almost like you're mixing it with the black, and you're also dragging some black pigment out with it, so it really blends nicely together. And then up from the bottom again. So using the periwinkle to drag the black pigment. It's not something we usually do when we're colouring because we like to keep colours very separate, especially when there's black involved. You don't want to sort of spread in any of the pigment anywhere else, but we're doing that on purpose here because we really want to blend that periwinkle in with the black as if it is the same solid colour, it's just shining. That's the effect we're trying to create. So of course we're leaving that middle highlight completely white, and once you've sort of filled in the gaps and sort of burnished the black a little, you can come back in with your black and darken up the very bottom and the very top. And if there are any areas of periwinkle that are too blue, you know, you've extended it out a bit too much from the black, you can just lightly go over it with your black so that it's not obvious. So again, just darkening this, because the periwinkle, when you mix it in with the black, it will lighten the black. So you do need to go back in as an important step and darken the black, because the biggest colouring trick that I've talked about many times, I've never actually done a video about it, and I think I probably should, just to have it out there, you know, in its own place. But the biggest trick if you're trying to create 3D or shiny objects is to maximise the contrast between the darkest area and the lightest area as much as you can. And you can't get very much more maxed out than black and white with contrast. So that's what I'm doing here. We're really deepening up the shadow areas, and we're leaving that light white in the middle. Now you can, with a very, very light touch, barely touching the paper at all, just come back with that periwinkle slightly and move into that white slightly, so it's not as harsh a white. So we don't want it, you know, completely plain paper. We do want to dust it a little with the periwinkle pigment, but not, you know, not anything heavy whatsoever. So I've literally just ghosted over that. I mean, I'll do it by the side here so you can see there is no pressure on that whatsoever, and that's what we'll do over the white, and that just gives it a little bit more of a blended, smooth look. So that is basically the technique. I'm going to do a bit more so that you can see how to do it. Now the crown of the head is a little bit different. It's still, you know, the same principle of what we've done, but you do have to look at where the hair is falling. So for example, in mine, I'll just get it out again, you can see that I've treated this section here, this section, as a separate section to this middle bit, and then I've treated this section and this section separate to each other as well, because that's how it's been drawn basically. We don't want to make the highlight exactly the same across the top of the whole head, because it wouldn't look as realistic. So we treat these sections differently. We do the black down from the crown and the black up from the edge here, and do that section first, then move on to your midsection, then do this section here and this section here. So this is just if you're doing this particular illustration. Obviously, if you're using this method on other hair, then you've just got to see how the illustrator has sectioned the hair off and follow the lines. So I'll just do the middle bit here for you. We'll concentrate on this area, this semicircle area. So going from the crown of the head and making sure that we don't overlap this line, so you can sort of draw it in if you like, just to help you not go over it. Then we are doing our black feathered strokes from the top. And we're following the curve. So in the middle, there's no curve. Well, there is a curve, it goes over like this, but there's no curve that way or that way. So we're just going straight when we get to the middle. But on the sides, you want to sort of do this and follow the curve, and on this side follow the curve, and in the middle straighter. So curving round to the right here and curving round the left here, and that will also help shape your highlight in the middle so that it looks more rounded. If you did it kind of straight, it would just look a bit odd. So it's all about following the lines that you've been given. So once you've got enough of your black feathered strokes in there, again, you've got to gauge it on how wide the section is. Obviously, I wasn't doing as much black here because it's a smaller section. I'm doing more here because it's a larger section. So you just have to gauge it. And then you do exactly the same from the bottom. I'm going to turn this around because it's a lot easier if you're following your natural wrist action when you're doing colouring than to flick up and awkwardly, if you know what I mean. So I'm turning the page round and I'm going to again just outline this jagged edge. Now, one thing I would say is I would leave this until the last thing that you do if you're colouring the person, because obviously when you come in with skin, it's going to be quite light probably, and you're going to end up smushing some of the black pigment into your skin, which is what I actually did on mine. So I had to be super, super careful not to do that. So we're doing the outline first, but I would definitely say do your skin first. I mean, it's common sense really when you're working with pencils, especially soft pencils that leave a lot of dust and pigment. So we've outlined it, so we know that we're not going to go past that area, we're not going to breach that line. And then again, we're using these kind of strokes up from the edge, thinking about how long to make your strokes so that we're still left with a good portion of white in the middle, curving them around until we get to more of a midpoint in the hair. And then as soon as we get past halfway, we're starting to curve this way now. Leaving the feathered strokes nice and light for that periwinkle to blend into. We only really want the dark black right at the edge, the top and the bottom edge, for now. So I'm just using quite a hard pressure to blacken that area more. So once you have got your black lines in there, and it's nice and smooth, the transition, just smoothing that out a little bit. We can have a look from the right way round now and see if there's any more we need to do. So I'm probably just going to extend this slightly and maybe just a little bit longer here. Then you can bring in that periwinkle again, starting again from the sort of midpoint of the black and dragging it down and not extending these strokes too far. We just want a very slight look of the periwinkle on the edge. We don't want a big sort of block of it like that. We don't want to see that. We just want to see a very slight touch of it. And again, you can go back in with your black if you do extend your periwinkle too far. So I'll just do that here so that you can see how to rectify that if you do. So I'm going quite far with my periwinkle now, and you can definitely see that that's a separate colour to the black. Again, we'll turn around and bring up the black with the periwinkle from the bottom, leaving again that lovely section of white in the centre. And there we go. So now that you can see that I've extended the periwinkle a bit too far, because we can see an awful lot of blue on there, and that's not the effect I want to create. So we will just push up the black a little more and cover up a bit of that periwinkle. So we're just pushing some pigment, laying it down very, very softly like this, not hard pressure, until we've covered a lot of that periwinkle, and we'll do the same on the top as well. So now you want to go in and deepen the blacks as we did down here. So making sure this is a really good solid burnished black area. And just using pulling strokes like this, and depending on if you turn it round or not, pushing strokes like this. So it all depends what you're trying to, the look you're trying to achieve. You have to sort of adjust your wrist as much as possible. So now that we've got our black flattened out, you can come back in with your periwinkle and fill in any of the little bits of white, the tooth that has not been burnished by the black. And again, as we did before, that very, very light touch of periwinkle, or whatever blue you're using, just to soften the transition slightly. Until you end up with something that looks a bit like that, and that is your beautiful shiny black hair. And again, you can go in, you can add more black in places, you can add a bit of periwinkle in more places, but as long as it's looking something like that, then you're on the right track. So I really hope that you've enjoyed looking at this quick hair tutorial for shiny black hair using a blue. Now, if you're not using Prismacolor, you do want to get a colour that looks like this. So it's a very, well, it's quite a warm blue actually. I said it was a cool blue earlier, but looking at it now as a solid, it is quite a warm blue. And this is the kind of colour that you're looking for. Hopefully that is showing up on camera properly. Now, if you wanted to, this is an optional step, you could use some sort of blending solution across this. That's totally up to you if you wanted to make it look a bit less granular or what have you. I mean, I can try that now so you can see, but that is an optional step that I haven't done on my work in progress. And as you can see, you can just brush on some blending solution like I've got here, and that might just soften the transition more, make it look a bit smoother. But I like to try and achieve everything I can with pencil only in the first instance before I move to blending solution, because it can sort of dull the colours a bit. Do you see how the white has now been dulled compared to that? But again, it's totally up to you. You could use a white pencil or a blending pencil to have the same effect. But either way, it's going to look brilliant when you're finished. So thank you very, very much for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I'm constantly doing tutorials and reviews and all kinds of things on here. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon on Colour with Claire.